It's a grizzly.
Should we get out of here?
No. We're gonna watch and listen.
Well, hello there, Prospecting USA, Gary, Penny Van, Val. So what we say there, Christopher, how you doing tonight?
Fantastic. How are you, Chris?
Doing wonderful. Hello, Denise. Nice to see everybody on a cold, breezy
Hello, Denise.
Friday evening.
Hello, everyone. Nice to have everyone here. Hello, Gene.
So just to let you know, ladies and gentlemen, Grizzly on the Hunt did partner up with USCCA, United States Concealed Carry Organization. And if you are traveling and you want to know your state laws or other reciprocal state laws on concealed carry or their gun rights and laws, click on the link. It is free. You get the United States 50 state map of their concealed state laws for each state. It is free and it helps out the channel. So please sign up for it. I'll drop the link in the comments. Also, it's listed on the YouTube in the description with other affiliates too. So we're a proud partner with that organization and look to further our bond together. So Chris, how you doing?
Fantastic.
So what are we going to talk about tonight?
Now, tonight we're talking about how to communicate with the deceased, like your loved ones, or maybe you have voices or spirits in the house. You want to communicate with them. We're going to be just going over some techniques, tools, and even some of my favorite cases on being able to communicate and channel and communicate with the deceased.
Now, a lot of people don't understand that. I think, and there's a link, ladies and gentlemen, down in the comments. I don't think they understand that when they dream, see things out of the corner of their eyes, smell fragrances or odors, that it's the people in the afterlife, loved ones, passed on ones, trying to communicate. Is that possible?
Oh, it's very much possible. I've had it happen to me multiple times. Even had ETs come into my dreams and even come into my realm of my room and communicate.
But when people talk to me about that, I tell them don't ignore it, because usually when they ignore it, sometimes it can intensify to try to get your attention. What's your thoughts?
Oh, yes. They try to communicate by getting a message through. Maybe they want you to help them, or they want to get a message to you to help you, and you ignore them, and they start to get a little bit more active. They do take all their energy and strength to try to get that message through, which in some cases, if you're not familiar with spirits or things of that nature, orbs and what have you, you might get the wrong message and think they're being harmful or trying to hurt, when really they're trying to get your attention. Like, hey, I got something to tell you. You need to listen to me. You may not know who it is. You may be scared, terrified. It happens all the time. And when I go in and help people, I always reassure them that maybe what you're going through isn't so much harmful as it is they're trying to help you by getting a message or something to you.
What's your recommendations? What are your thoughts on how to learn this process?
Yeah, the best way recommendation I would give is just simply, number one is to be able to relax calmly and listen, or even just close your eyes and try to envision what's going on and see if you hear or see anything. Because a lot of times, our first thoughts are, what was that, or who's that, or that's not good. But if we take the time to just listen for a second, we might think, I think I recognize that sound or that feeling, or I think I know what that voice is. I recognize that. But our first thoughts are usually, like, oh boy, or let's run, let's get out of here. And then we could be actually hurting their feelings, because they are human. They just don't have a bodily shape to walk around in. So we could be hurting their feelings. It could be a mom or a dad or a grandma or grandpa. They just want to tell us something. We act in a different way than what we should, really.
So what do you think when people say, I think I'm going crazy?
And you're not going crazy, because loved ones and spirits, even extraterrestrials, can come across, in different ways, and sometimes, in some cases, they might only get that message to us. They may only be targeting us because we're the one they want to talk to. and other people around us might think we're losing our mind or we need help because they don't see and hear what we see. They don't feel the things we feel. They don't know what we know. And so they're going to come, the people are going to look at us in some cases, judge us wrong, tell us, well, you need psychic help, you need psychiatric help, or you need to go see a doctor. You're losing up there. When really we're not, we're communicating. Even as a psychic myself, I've had people tell me, so you really talk to people? Yes, I do. And they say, I think you need help, son. But then once you sit down and tell them, explain to them what's going on, they begin to understand, okay, maybe you're not so crazy. They just don't understand the work or the process.
So how do you talk to people that has no knowledge or understanding of how this works? How do you explain it to them?
I simply sit them down, or however we want to do it, sit them down and let them know that, okay, so it's like this. When you cross over, your body becomes one or two things, a conscience mainly, but some people refer to it as a spirit. Now, in that spirit form, we are just like we are now. The only difference is we don't have bones or an actual skin and body to walk around in, so therefore we may not be seen as easily to the common folk. However, some people who have the abilities, or if people we are really close to, maybe we're really close with grandmother, we were like this together. If that's the case, she might see and hear us because of our bond together. A normal person may not see that bond or may not see that person at all. They're going to think we're nuts because we're talking to somebody that we're really close to.
I tell people all the time to talk to your loved ones or passed on ones because they can hear you. What's your thought?
Oh, they can. In fact, just recently, it's been not even 7 days ago, I was middle of the night. It's about 1:30, 2:30 in the morning. I walked into the kitchen, just past the dining room, and I had this like a cologne smell. Well, that's strange. Why is there a cologne? And I recognized the smell. It was my grandfather's cologne that used to be. The cologne was called Undeniable. And it was his cologne that he used to wear on a daily basis. And as soon as I recognized it, I knew where it was coming from. His chair where he sat in for years and years. He'd always sit in his chair, have coffee, watch ball games. And so I recognized that smell. I knew he was there. So I spoke to him. And once I spoke to him, then the bond began. And that's how it was. And anybody could do it. If you smell a familiar smell, just relax, ask yourself who it is. It might be you might recognize it. It might be a loved one, a mom or dad, or somebody you know.
That's interesting. So how can you explain this to people that want to try to communicate with passed on ones?
Well, if you want to communicate with them, first of all, have a good heart and a good belief system, and talk to them just like you normally would. Say, hey, grandfather or mom or dad or brother or sister, if you can hear me, I want you to know I love you and I still care, or I still think about you. And if you do that often enough, or even just the first time, they do hear. They have perfect eyes and ears, because when you cross over, you're more or less like in your 30s again. Or even if you're in a conscious state, you still have your full memory, your understanding, and so you're still going to be able to communicate in some way. So if you say hi to your loved ones or whoever you want to talk to, they will hear you, and they will somehow get a message through to you. It might be just a pat on the shoulder. It might be their scent of their cologne. It could be a whisper in the ear, or even, it could just be just a brush on the hair. But they'll get a message to you somehow or another.
So how do you know what voice to listen to inside your head? I always get that question a lot.
Well, one thing is I recognize words because I get like a download of information from ETs, but even from past loved ones, I'll get a download of information. But if it's loved ones, a lot of times I'll get a certain fragrance that comes to me first, and then I'll get what's normally like a certain word or certain sentence that they would say, like my grandfather used to say things like, he used to call me Chris Boy, or I had a grandmother used to call me like Hun, or different things. I hear those words, and sometimes I can almost hear the tone of their voice. A lot of times it's just words that come to me, and I know who it is because I know, okay, only that person spoke in that kind of language or those terms.
Interesting. That is true. Fragrances, things being shifted, noises, objects being moved in front of you, knocks. Aren't those some of the signs too that can be potential loved ones?
Oh yes, definitely. In fact, you might hear a certain knock, or even just a certain way they walked on the floor. Even animals are the same way. Like just recently, I was at my home, and I saw my what used to be my cat walk right by on the left hand side, and I knew that was my cat because not only did I recognize her, but I could hear that almost like what they call that, a purr that the cat would put forth, and I knew, okay, that was my cat. And there's certain things, and every person's going to know their loved ones in a certain way, so they're going to recognize certain patterns or signals that let them know, okay, that's my grandma, or that's mom and dad, or whoever.
So how do you start the process to try to communicate if you want to?
Oh yeah, you simply would. I would, for me, I would simply sit down or go into a room where they normally used to be at, sit down and just have just a introduction, like, hey, mom, if you're here, I'd like to speak to you. I got some stuff I want to tell you. And then just wait a few seconds, and you might get a calming sensation, or you might get a warmth that comes over you, or even a smell. And then just gradually begin to talk to her. She will come. They do hear. From what I've been told, once you cross over, it takes a year, from what I've been told, a year before you can come back and see your loved ones here on Earth. But for them over there on the other side, it's only just a matter of days, not really a year like it is for us. But once you do make communication, let's say your mom passed away last year, and you've been missing and you want to make communication, you sit down, have a nice conversation with her, start the conversation, just talk to her like she is there. She will come. They will hear you.
Interesting. So what other tidbits do you have for everybody?
Well, not only can you speak to your loved ones, but you can speak to animals too. A lot of people have. In fact, there was a case that we did a while back. It's been 3 or 4 years ago. I don't know if I was actually at this case, but I heard the story where a person was petting a dog. One of our investigators was petting a dog that you could not see on camera. It was in the corner, and he could feel the dog, and he was petting the dog, and he could feel, he could actually feel the texture of the dog and hear it and feel it. So the dog had been in communication with this guy. Now this guy is good with animals, so it's kind of befitting that the dog would come to him because he's good with animals. And
Interesting.
if you have a lost pet, or maybe a cat or animal, or it could even be a ferret, if you have a lost animal, they do come around. In fact, recently, I was told by another psychic that my cat's job is to watch over me. Now that he's passed over, his job is to keep an eye on me, and so that's probably the reason why I see him every now and then, because he still checks on me. And you can, if you have an attachment to a cat, a pet, or whatever, talk to him. Call the name out, put your hand up. Be surprised, they probably will come if they're not already there.
Interesting. Tammy Johnson asks, Chris, I want to talk to dead people. What should I do?
I want to say hi to my friend Rachel, but yes, we're going to talk to dead people. Sure, just if you're going, let's say you're going on a paranormal investigation and you want to communicate, there's different tools you can use, of course, but if you want to do it verbally, just go to a corner, or even center of a room, and just ask for whoever's there in the house. Like I would ask, if there's any spirits or family members still in this house, please make communication with me. I would love to talk to you, and just do it in a nice, calm voice. They will hear you. They will respond in some ways. You can even, if you don't seem to be getting any activity, you can also even do what we sometimes refer to as the introduction to a place, where we'll do like a knock, like shave and a haircut, and then have them complete that knock, and then kind of break the silence, because a lot of times they don't know who we are. We go into a building or a place, and we're total strangers. We actually have on recording where a gentleman asked us, "Who are you and why are you here?" Because we're strangers to the environment, and the husband was still at the house watching television, doing his business, and here we are, you're walking in as strangers, so we have to break the mold, introduce ourselves, and get them to open up. And that's one of the key things too, is when you go into a place that you've never been to and you want to make communication, introduce yourself. Don't go in there and just start hollering and making noise and throwing equipment around. Go in there and let them know why you're here. Let them know what you want. Introduce yourself and be calm and polite, because just because they're gone doesn't mean they don't have feelings. Doesn't mean they don't care and don't understand. They do perfectly. Trust me.
Do you recommend using a digital recorder to catch your EVPs while trying to communicating?
Oh yes, definitely use a digital recorder. In fact, one of my favorite tools is not so much a digital recorder, as you can use an old tape recorder, or even just go to like a Walgreens store or department store and just get a real cheap like voice recorder for like memos and stuff. You can use that, and you'll be surprised. We have got so much information just on a little bitty tiny like $10 recorder from a department store. So much EVPs information. It's amazing, and you don't have to have the expensive equipment to capture stuff like you may make some people may think.
Right, I agree with that. Absolutely. What other tips and tidbits you think we should do?
Well, there's numerous things. In fact, I do want to say that one of the best tools you can use on an investigation or anywhere is your eyes, ears, and mouth. Not so much the equipment that you put into it. And some other topics you can, or different things you can try, is just simply sitting down and like I would go somewhere, just relax in a chair, just listen for a while and introduce myself and let them know that I'm right here if you want to come make communication. In fact, one of the cases we did last year, and it always stands out in my mind as one of my favorite cases, was a woman that was had lost her husband, and her husband had been passed away for quite a while, and she had already moved on with another relationship, but her husband was still there at the location. She didn't know it was him, and he was bothering her and her new relationship. And so we came in to figure out what was going on. I made communication with him, and he was flat out, not to say flat out, but he was telling me that he's still here and that he still loves her, and that he wants to know why she's not paying attention to him. And so I had to make communication with him, let him know that you have passed on. You need to go into the light, move on to the other side. You got family there, but you need to leave her alone because she's moved on. It's not that she doesn't love you anymore. She's moved on with her life, and it's time for you to move on with your life to the next stage. And he was mad because they don't understand sometimes, because they don't cross over. They don't understand why it is that they passed away. They don't know they have, and they're walking around their house doing their routines, and their own family is ignoring them, and that scares the hell out of them, because all of a sudden the person you loved all your life is no longer paying attention to you. It's like you don't exist to them anymore, because they can't see or hear you, and you don't understand that because you didn't realize you passed away. I'm not saying every person doesn't realize when they die. In some cases, it can be so instant, like an instant crash or instant kill or heart attack, that you might get up out of your body, start walking around, and not even realize you're dead. It could be days, years before you realize that you're passed away, until somebody tells you. And that's what we do as investigators. We go into these locations, and we help the deceased ones move on, help them realize what's going on. And I was able to help this gentleman move on. We were able to help this gentleman move on to the next stage of his life during our investigation, and bring peace to the family and the house, because now they can rest easy. They don't have to hear the voices at night. They don't feel like they're being touched and poked, because to them it was like torture. But to the person who had passed away, he was like, "Hey, I'm here. Why don't you listen to me?" And we get this quite a bit on cases. So if you ever have like activity in your house, for those who are watching, don't just jump to conclusions and think it's negative or that it's violent or that it's harmful. It could be somebody you really loved and once knew that have recently passed away, that's trying to get closure for themselves by communicating through you. They might have something they want to tell you, like maybe you ended in a fight, maybe they passed away and you guys weren't getting along, but now they want to make peace with you. They're not mad anymore.
Rachel says two things. She's smelling cologne right now, and she wants to know, is using a Ouija board dangerous?
Using a Ouija board can be dangerous if you don't know how you're properly using it, because of the fact that you can bring in things that you didn't intend to or you don't want. I have heard that, and not heard that numerous times from people about the dangers. There's been people that have used Ouija boards and they have brought in. I won't even go into some of the names because I don't even like saying some of the names of some of the things that can happen. But they brought in some stuff. One particular case, somebody brought in something that they shouldn't have, and the whole house was just blanketed with activity. And one of the children that originally lived in the house was found hung. And come to find out, long story short, I guess what had been brought in the house was the reason the boy had been the reason the boy had gotten hung wasn't because the boy hung himself like everybody thought. It was because of what had been brought into the house. That the entity or the demon was the one that caused the hanging himself. He staged it to look like the boy had committed suicide, basically, flat out say it. So you got to be careful. If you do Ouija boards properly and carefully, you can channel in your loved ones and different things. If you're just doing it for a wild party type atmosphere, you got to be careful because you can really wreak havoc. That is a warning. Don't ever take a Ouija board and just go and have fun with it, because you never know what could happen unless you're careful.
Absolutely. Welcome, Crystal. Mort comes back. I'm trying to develop my intuition. Any advice, Christopher?
Yeah, if you want to develop your intuition, my first thoughts on how to develop your abilities and intuition is go into a room for like maybe a few weeks or so, and every time you walk into a room or an environment, ask yourself, what does it feel like in this room? Is it positive? Is it negative? Is it a happy environment? Is it a sad environment? Ask yourself those questions and look for patterns. Learn to develop patterns and learn to feel what other people are putting out energy-wise. Because once you start developing and recognizing that, you can then go into environments and instantly start to recognize, okay, that's bad, that's good, he's happy, he's sad. Just a matter of getting used to it, and then you kind of go from there. That's the first steps.
How do you change a negative room into a positive room feeling?
First of all, you're going to attract in whatever you put out. And so if a room is negative and you start putting out positive vibes, like maybe telling jokes or just letting everybody know, like positive news, things that you're happy about, and try to gradually change their mindset, their motivation to positive. Because it's like this: if you were having a bad day, I could come in here and start telling jokes and different things to lift your spirits. Okay, now my environment is positive. I'm changing yours to positive, which is then going to spread to the whole room, and everybody's going to start to feed off of that.
So it can snowball.
Right, because if I walk into a room and I went, oh, this is the worst day ever, and so on and so forth, every person in the room is going to get tired of hearing me. I'm bringing them down to my level. Now you got the whole room feeling the same way I felt just because I started it, like a chain of reaction or whatever.
Right. Welcome, Christina. Nice to have you on the show. Round of applause for you. Hopefully all is well. I look forward to seeing you Sunday.
I think Rachel asked earlier about the clone. It could be a clone from a grandmother or a grandfather, or even a past loved one that might have wore that clone.
Yeah, so don't let things just pass you by on a whiff. Sometimes it can be something.
Right.
What about dreams? Everybody dreams a lot. What are your thoughts on dreams?
Oh, yes, everybody dreams. In fact, from the time I was a kid, and I still have these occasionally, I had dreams I could fly. In fact, one of the recent dreams that I had, when I woke up from the dream, I knew exactly how to fly. I knew how to do it. And once I actually stood up, everything that I felt started to leave. And the ability that I had for flying began to diminish. As soon as I got out of bed, it was like it was gone. But during that was probably the most intense dream of flying I've had, because when I literally woke up, I knew exactly how to do it. But as soon as I stood up, everything vanished. And dreams can be they can mean a lot, because your loved ones can come to you in dreams more so than any other way. In fact, I have a relative who had a daughter who was visited by a great grandmother, and was just checking on her in her dreams. How you doing? How you feeling? How's school? That sort of thing. So loved ones can come to you in dreams. Even animals can come to you in dreams. I've had dreams of my cat. I've had dreams of the different relatives. Even dreams can even tell you the future. If you have dreams, one thing I do recommend is for those who do have a lot of dreams and they're wanting to decipher what the meaning of those dreams are, keep a journal down. And when you wake up, as soon as you wake up, write the stuff down while it's still fresh up here. Because if you wait too long, you're going to start to lose those memories. So always write things down instantly, and then go back and look for patterns and things that might help you connect with what's going on.
Yeah, I always recommend people use a journal because you do forget them after you wake up. So how do you tell a difference between a dream and a premonition of a loved one coming to you that's actually real?
If it's a premonition of a loved one, you're going to have like a very intense feeling from that loved one, because there's a certain bond that people have with their families, loved ones, and even animals. That they know that bond, they know that feeling. It's very intense. It's something that only you and that person share. However, if it's just a random dream, like a dream where let's say Bozo the clown comes into your dream, okay, that's just a dream.
Bozo. That was a good one.
I was on his show once years ago.
That was funny.
But no, I was on a show once. But anyways, you can
you was on Bozo's show?
In the audience.
Oh wow. That's interesting.
But yeah, if you have dreams, definitely write things down. One way you can tell the difference is not only the energy and the feeling that you get, but if it is just a dream, there's going to be like certain characteristics to that dream that's going to throw it all off from reality. Like you're going to be having dreams of might have a dream of just weird stuff, like you're doing something you don't normally do. It's awkward, or it makes no sense in some cases, and you know it's just a dream because that wouldn't really happen in real life, where you didn't know that person, or vice versa. But if it is an actual like dream, like trying to get a message through to you, or trying to tell you something about your future self, then you're going to get a feeling from that, a very strong feeling and it's going to make sense because I always say write things down, because you can look at patterns and start making sense of it.
Right. Now, Gene Hudson, how do you know if you pick someone to connect you with your loved one that you're picking someone who can truly help you?
Yeah, if you're picking someone who loves you and can truly help you, you have to one thing, be careful, because when you start picking people to come to in your dreams, or even just in life in general, make sure that you know who you're really identifying with, because if you start inviting things into your presence, or into your dreams or reality, you start inviting people in there. You got to be careful, because other people could try to channel in or try to get through to you that aren't your loved ones, or aren't your true people that you want to be with. It could be somebody else that's trying to take advantage of you or get into you. So always make sure you're careful, and if you're not sure who's in your environment, have them identify themselves. But for one thing, if you don't recognize the feeling, or don't recognize the smell, or the energy level, then it may be somebody you don't want to communicate with.
That's true. That is true. So how do you know when you're sitting there thinking and you just come up with random thoughts? Is that my imagination, or is that sometimes passed on ones that are trying to give you messages? Because I get that question a lot.
Yeah, if you start getting thoughts in your head, if the thoughts make sense to you, it probably is a loved one, someone trying to get a message through. But always, if the thought kind of sounds odd or seems off, try to telepathically send a message to them, or even just whisper, say, "Hey, can you be more clear on that?" And then listen and see if something else doesn't come to you. Because if they're not clear the first time, if it is a loved one, they could say something that's more to your liking, or more to your feelings, that could be more clear. If it's somebody just trying to be harmful, or even if it's just something that just blew in your mind, that makes no sense. It could be just simply a odd thought, or it could be somebody that's trying to overtake you or trying to bring harm. For instance, we've been on cases before where I personally have had people come to me that have tried to change my thought process and give me different feelings that I was not comfortable with, and tried to bring harm. And I always tell, when I get that feeling, that I know it's not normal, because if you're feeling that you have all of a sudden during an investigation, or even just in daily life, that isn't normal, then you need to push that aside, because if it doesn't feel right, then it probably isn't right.
That's true. What's some of the cases you worked on that this has happened?
Yeah, we did a case, a couple cases actually. There were several cases, but one in particular. We were at an investigation, and I was doing some remote viewing in the wife's bedroom on her big bed that she had, and I was trying to get communication with what was there, again, to help them cross over. And this gentleman got into me, and I started making holes in the paper. My pen was pounding on the paper, making holes on it. At the same time this was going on, the EMF detector in the room down the hallway right outside the door started going off. As soon as I started pounding on the paper, the EMF started going off, and I had to literally had to make him stop and remove myself from the room, because he was really aggravated, and he was channeling into me, and I was banging on the paper, and I allowed him to do that, because I allow, when I'm doing remote viewing or even doing a case, there are times I will allow whatever's there to communicate through me or to me. If I don't feel comfortable with it, or if I feel like they're getting too aggressive, I will definitely have them, they have to leave and I have to get out.
So Gene Hudson comes back. Christopher, how do you know which psychic medium to talk to about your passed on loved ones? And how do you know that they're real and prosperous and telling you the truth?
Well, if you go to see a psychic medium, one of the very first things I will say right off bat is that if they start asking you questions before they tell you any answers, they're not psychic. If you got to answer questions for them before you get a reading, they're not psychic. They're taking your knowledge and they're going to twist it, and then they're going to give you answers based on that. I've had that happen before.
Yeah, so be careful. Always tell people to always use recommendations.
In fact, I'll give a prime example of that right now. Years and years ago, when I very first became a paranormal investigator, I asked a psychic at a convention how well I was going to do as a paranormal investigator. She smiled at me and says, "I see you like it. That'll be $60."
What?
Yep. And then she said, "Do you want a body cleansing?" I said, "Yeah." I thought she was going to do like a trance or a meditation or something. This was, remember, years ago. I said, "Yeah, I'll do a body cleansing." She gave me a little pink bag with 2 hotel soaps and said that'll be $275.
What?
No joke.
Yeah, I think I would. No. Mm-mm. If you want to see, ladies and gentlemen, people that do not have abilities and charge people and do this, go to TikTok. You would be entertained. I have seen people use pendulums that will close their eyes, and people pay $5 for a yes or no question, right? Yes, no answer. Hold a pendulum with their eyes closed. The pendulum won't even move. I'm talking not even move. And they'll be like, yeah, that's a yes. All right, Bob, you're up. What's your question? And I'm like, the pendulum didn't even move. Ladies and gentlemen, when I use my pendulum, it moves. I show everybody it moves. It's not me moving it. I display it. But when you see these people out here, I'm telling you, it's very entertaining. So, very entertaining. And it's a shame, crying out shame. We talked about this on other shows. The pendulum don't even move. And that's a no. Is my boyfriend cheating? Yes. That's $5. What do you mean? You didn't. So much for that relationship. So what happened to you, Chuck? I don't know. My girlfriend just dumped me. Why? I don't know. Because somebody paid $5 and said yes, that you were cheating. That's why, Chuck. I mean, it. You know what? When I can't sleep 2, 3, 4 o'clock, I mean, these people stay up all hours of the night collecting money off these poor people.
Right.
Y'all get me going on this. I mean, if I would get in trouble, I would bring up TikTok right now and display it on our show and be like, look at this. Anyways, anyways. Chris, you got me laughing. I had to quit looking at you because you know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, I know paranormal connections, TikTok sightings are fun. They are. I've seen ones from the hood. I've seen ones from the trailer park. And let me tell you something. You want something that's spiritual, right? And they're playing rap music. It's MF this and F that and cussing and blowing up people and shit. And they're GDing you and Fing you and calling you a B word, and you're paying them $25, $45 for a spiritual reading. What kind of spiritual person are you? Anyways, y'all got me off on a damn tangent. I have a niece, Gene Hudson says, that calls me all the time, and I tell her things she don't want to hear. I know, Gene. Some people just don't want to hear the truth. She goes to a meeting and they charge her a couple of $100 to tell her what I already told her. Isn't that awful? You know what I like is when people don't believe that you got the ability and you get into their deep, dark, personal closets and look at skeletons.
I give you a good example of that. We were at the big MUFON event they have every year, and I went up to the bar to get another drink, and this wonderful old lady came to my right-hand side, because that's where it seemed like I get most of my activity. And she came up here, you couldn't actually see her. She was there, and she said to tell the waitress or the bartender that I love her. And bartender says, I told the bartender, I said, somebody said to tell you that they love you. And she goes, who? I said, I described her, I said, in a rocking chair. And I described the look of the hair and such. And she started to cry. She goes, that's my grandmother.
Yeah, well, that's genuine. I mean, but to see people out here to pry and take advantage of the weak and vulnerable, you know, I mean, come on. So, yes. Have you ever seen the seatbelt psychic?
I've never heard of him.
Yeah, so he goes around, he's an Uber driver, and he's a psychic medium. And people get into this minivan. He's like, hello, do you believe in psychics? They're like, no. Well, that's okay because your grandmother. And then he just goes right into a reading and it flips him out. So, yeah, it's pretty interesting. So, Irene, yeah, I don't give rings because I got yelled at for telling the truth. So I only talk to the dead now. You know, Irene, some people just can't handle the truth. And some people don't want to know the real truth, you know, and I'm sorry.
I'll be honest right here, right now. I don't believe in charging people for readings, because I think if somebody needs help with something, it should be free. Because why should we charge somebody to help them communicate with somebody that they once loved?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Tammy Johnson says, I've seen that show with the psyche. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. And Paranormal Connections, I've got a long list. And if I die before you, I'm going to jump on your bed.
I'm going to shake your sheets and turn your lights off and on.
Anyways, I shouldn't eat those gummy bears or those gumdrops or whatever they're called. See what sugar does to me. Yeah, you're right. It's Eve Refs. That's right, Christopher. So, but yeah, I don't know. It just, you know what? Another thing that really just fires me up is when people, I ain't going to say where, but come on to certain platforms and they talk about things. You're like, you are so full of it. Yeah, it did not happen. That bothers me too. Does that bother you?
Oh yeah, I watch some of the people on Facebook or like you say YouTube and stuff, and they're giving readings and then they're putting their hands up and they're all the hocus pocus and stuff, and I'm thinking, how or it can't. It's amazing the way they take advantage of people.
Yeah, it really is. Welcome, FDL Paranormal. Welcome, welcome. Nice to have you. A round of applause for you. I'm surprised you're up at 1:42 in the morning. So, but yeah, it does. It just drives me nuts. It just,
Because you could go to YouTube or TikTok or one of those places and get 5 different readings on the same question and get 5 different answers.
Grizzly, ask him about the question I asked. Oh, let me scroll back. I must have skipped right over it. Let's see here. Tammy Johnson. Me too.
Hello, Tammy.
Tammy Johnson. One of my searches the night before the lady came in my dream gave me info. My dog found her next day. Why hasn't this happened again? I know the answer to that.
Yeah. So it says one. Okay. So we're gonna bring the question back up.
Oh, let me scroll back up. Because I did pass it. Let me scroll a little bit further. All right. One of my searches the night before the lady came in my dream and gave me info to where to find her body, I guess. My dog found her the next day. Why hasn't this happened again? I already got an answer as soon as I clicked on it. What's your take?
Yeah, it could be. For instance, it could be the fact that the dog, the dog did its job or did its purpose, and it could be that maybe the dog hasn't picked up on anything else since then. Maybe the environment is clear or empty, and so the dog hasn't had any. The dog is at peace or at calm now. That'd be my best. My way of putting it would be that the dog has done its job. It's peaceful. It's at rest. And what is your take, Chris?
So Tammy has a organization which she volunteers to go out and help find people that are missing, right?
Right.
So her question is that this person came to her to tell her information and she went with their dog and found her body. Now, that person really wanted the body to be found and knew that Tammy was either going to work on the case or is working on the case. And she wanted to reach out to Tammy to help recover her remains or their remains. That's my take. Yeah, and I've actually heard and seen that happen before.
Yeah, like a connection with between
yes.
Right.
So absolutely.
In fact, I can give a good example of that myself. My cat that I used to have, I always felt like I had a little bit of a psychic abilities, and so there were times when for instance, my cat would wake me up in the middle of the night to warn me of something, and I'd get up and realize, okay, I left this light on, or I left the oven on, or vice versa, because the animals can have a way of helping you out.
Yeah, I do believe that people in the afterlife can come back and either help the person or help the person using certain tools or animals to help the investigation. Yes, I do believe in that.
Like there was a case that we did years ago, and I was not on this particular case, but the loved one, the husband, had told the wife, when I come back, you're going to know because I'm going to leave pennies around the house. And so one day, one of the investigators was at the house, and sure enough, a penny landed right on the floor. It was from the husband.
So just remember, ladies and gentlemen,
if I die and stuff happens in your house or bedroom,
it's me. You can say, damn it, Grizzly, come on. But anyway. So yeah. Gene Hutton says, Tammy, thank you for so much doing that. People who have lost their loved ones. And yes, we really greatly appreciate Tammy and what she does. And Liana, you are going to be so miserable. Holy water will not be able to help you. You better believe it, Crystal. Each time that you go to eat that Reese's Pieces or that Reese's peanut butter cup, I'm going to take a bite out of it or knock it out of your hand before you take a bite. Just remember that. And we'll all grow beards.
I'll give everybody a good way to communicate with their loved ones. If you want to communicate in a simple fashion, you can, like I say, just sit down and talk, and they will hear you. But however, if you want to do something unique, say unique but kind of fun, just go out and get you an old cheap tape recorder, put in a tape, just hit record, and sit down and just have a one-on-one talk with whoever it is, your loved ones, mom, dad, grandma, grandpa. Just have a one-on-one talk with them. Let the tape recorder go. Let it record, and play it back, and you probably hear responses. I'd almost guarantee it, because tape recorders and even like voice recorders, digital recorders, they operate on a different frequency than what our normal ears do in some cases. So they're going to pick up on those voices. For instance, I like I talked about earlier, just buying a cheap voice recorder, $10, whatever, let it run, and you get all kinds of EVPs and various things on there. It's amazing. And you communicate with your loved ones on there and just play it back and hear the conversation, hear the answers.
That is correct. And Christopher, how does people find you and reach out to you?
Yes, you can find me on Facebook at Chris Harmon Crappie King, or you can find me on MUFON.com, Instagram as well. I'm also on YouTube at SWPI Pekin. That's Something Wicked Paranormal Investigations Pekin. And also that as well on Facebook, and my website that will be available soon this summer. That will be called Otherworldly Insights.
Awesome. Well, Christopher, it's been a pleasure, and it's been a pleasure for everybody tonight. And want to say thank you, everybody. And from coast to coast around the world, we'll catch you Sunday at 6 o'clock. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.